Well, good morning, everyone. It's Mrs. Suter, and today I'm going to do the lesson called Paper Circuits and Electricity. And so what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be talking to you about electricity, and we're going to also do make a paper circuit. So this one's going to be a little more challenging and has a little more materials that are specialized. So if you did not pick up the packet from the board office, make sure that you do that before you log on. And then be patient with yourself, okay? This is not necessarily easy, but it is a lot of fun. And if you practice a lot and keep building more and more things, you're going to find how much easier it is. So we're going to get started. So the first thing I want to do is bring up my my slides. And so here we go. And we're going to talk about electricity and paper circuits, and I'll show you some of these things as we go. But the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about magic. And sometimes people are like, oh, I love magic. I believe in magic. And magic is cool, and magic tricks are awesome, and I like to do them. But I don't necessarily believe, I would say, in magic. I do believe in science. And in science, we often see things that appear magical because there are forces that we can't see in the world but are acting upon things. And so today, I'm going to show you a couple magic science tricks, or science magic tricks, I guess, and that you could do for your friends, and then I explain the science behind it. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use some tissue paper squares, or you could just tear up some tissue, or you could use black pepper out of the shaker. The other thing that I've used is tinsel from the Christmas tree, and now is a good time of year to get some of that or have that in your house. I'm going to use a wool cloth, and for me, my wool cloth, I just cut up one of my husband's old wool socks so that I could have that available. And it does need to be wool because wool is the kind of the magic fabric for electricity. The other thing I have is a clear plastic straw. You're going to use this as my magic wand, and does need to be plastic. And I'm also going to be using an empty soda can. Okay, so I'm going to turn off this and go straight into just my video here so you can see the tricks in action. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a magic trick, and I guess I'll pull it up here so that you can see the name of it. And the magic trick is called flying paper. Okay, flying tissue paper, but it doesn't necessarily have to be tissue paper. It could be, as I said, it could be cut up tissue or tinsel from a Christmas tree, anything like that. Okay, so to do the trick, the first thing I'm doing is out on my board here, I hope you can see it. I have out some tissue paper and some tinsel, okay, out on my big board there. So on a flat surface, I just laid out some of my tissue paper, some of my tinsel, so that you could see it just laying there, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my straw and I'm going to load it up. Okay, so what I call loading up my straw. And I'm just going to rub the straw with my wool cloth, okay? Now, we'll explain after we're done why this works, okay? So I got my magic wand ready here. Pull my screen down a little bit. Now, when I put it over my paper, notice that it picks up my tinsel first because the tinsel is small. I'm going to take it off. Now, I'm going to rub it more because obviously it didn't do a great job with the tissue paper, so I need more loading of this straw. Now you can see how I can pick up my tissue paper and make it fly. Okay, and definitely the tinsel picks up the tinsel nice and easy. So you can see that it creates this magic. And the more I load it, the more things it will be able to pick up. Okay, now you can have your friends feel your straw to make sure they know there's no glue on here, anything like that. Okay, now if you don't have a clear plastic straw, you could also use a balloon, an inflated balloon, but you have to do the same thing. You have to load up your balloon with your wool. You could use a sweater. If you're wearing a sweater like I am today that has some wool in it, that'll work too. So I load my balloon up by rubbing it with the cloth, and then let's see if I can come down here a little bit, and then you can see how it really picks up my material. Okay, if it's not picking up there, you can see it picked up my my tissue paper. I can load it up more, and then it just really picks up things and makes them fly. Okay, so you can really see all of the things that it's picking up. So that's one of the magic tricks, is just doing your, and the balloon works really, 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 really great. And you can see things popping around. Okay, so that's one of the magic tricks, is to do your flying tissue paper. Like I said, and if you have tinsel on your tree, that will work really well too. Okay, now the other one that I have that I use the balloon for, it works a little better with the balloon than it does with the straw, because the rubber balloon takes more, you know, I never get this off of me today. Okay, so I'm going to load up my balloon again, and this next one is called the rolling can. Okay, I'll load it up really, really, really good. Okay, now this is an aluminum can. It's empty. Okay, my son drank it. Now I'm going to make my can roll. Let me see if I can get my, so look here, my can, without, let me get it situated here. Oh, it's on a slope there a little bit. Okay. Try to get it situated here. Okay, my surface must not be very flat, but you can put it here and it's going to pull, but look, I can make it roll uphill too. See, it's going to follow my balloon, even uphill. So let me roll it uphill again. I can make it roll uphill very slowly, get my balloon closer. And it follows my balloon because my balloon is attracting the soda can. Okay, now when it rolls, when it runs out of magic, I just rub it in more, put it back here, and then I can make it roll towards my, roll uphill, get it closer. Whoa, it goes really fast if I get it close. Now, if I get rid of it, notice it's going to roll back downhill. Now, I'm going to pull it back, make it roll uphill. So, that's called the rolling can trick. And basically, all you need is a little wool, a balloon, and an empty soda can. Okay? So, now, throw those back in my container over there. Now, the question is, how does that work? Why does that work? What is the force that is pulling those things to us? Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at some of the science behind the magic that we just saw. Okay? So we're going to go back into my slides here. And you can see how we did the rolling can trick. And the balloon works really, really well. Okay, now, so it says, what science makes the magic tricks work? So I want you to think about that a little bit. Do you know what science is making this magic trick work? And many of you probably do know that what we have is static electricity. Okay, but most of us don't know how it is that static electricity works. So we're going to talk about that first because it has stuff to do with our paper circuit as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you here my PhET simulation. And if you want to do this on your own, all you have to do is go into PhET, P-H-E-T, simulations, and go into static electricity. Okay, and if you want to know that more, you can let me know and I will send it to you. But all of our things in the world are made up of atoms, and atoms have a positive and a negative charge to them. Okay, so you can see right now all of our positive and negative charges on the wool sweater, on the balloon, and on the wall are all equal. And since they're equal, everything just remains as it is. But if I take the balloon and I move it over here to the wool sweater, what is happening? Well, you can see that it absorbed or took on the negative particles onto the balloon. The balloon, all of these little more negative particles jumped onto the balloon, and now my sweater is completely positive charged and my balloon is more negative charged. So now when I let go of the balloon, it is attracted to the sweater, which is what's happening when we rub the wool cloth on top of the balloon. We make it so that the balloon becomes negatively charged, and our can would be more positively charged, and so they will attract to one another. Now, if I bring it over here to the wall, look what happens to the negative particles. Negative is repelling against those negatives. Now notice, how come these charges aren't jumping? Well, the electrons don't want to jump off the wall. The material, the solid, is made of different material, and so the electrons are not jumping. And the negative balloons, or the balloon, already has so many negative charges to it that no more will go onto the balloon. So the balloon will be attracted to the positive, and it will repel. So it'll push those away, and then it'll attract to the positive here. But notice it will push the negative ones away. Okay, now I can reset it. I can bring it over here to the wall. Notice it'll stick to the wall because they're balanced. But if I only pick up a couple of negative charges here, it'll push them away just a little bit. So I can see it's going to be attracted to the sweater, and as I rub it again, it's going to get more and more attracted to it. So when I pull it here, it's going to immediately pull over there, okay? Because positive and negative attract. All right, now if you want to do this on your own, you can put two balloons in. You can show no charges. You can show just the charge differences. So you can see positive and negative, and they will attract. Okay, I can bring this one over, and now I can see that yeah, look at that. It does not attract to this balloon. It only wants to connect with the sweater. So I really like, when I do the two balloons, how I can bring it and have this collect some, and it'll be attracted, and then have this one come and be attracted, but it will not attract to this balloon. Notice it'll repel it and go straight to the sweater. Okay, you can also remove the wall if you want, if you don't want to have the wall there. And you can add the wall back in, reset things so you can play around with this on your own. Okay, so let's talk about how that's working. Well, everything in the world is made up of atoms, and atoms are where our electricity comes from. Now, we all depend on electricity, from your alarm clock to your lights to your game system to your heaters to TVs. Everything that you use that takes power needs electricity. But we have to understand how this electricity works. So right here we have to understand the atom, and the atom is what all matter is made up of. Okay, and they're microscopic. You can't see them with your eyes. And in fact, the word atom comes from Greek, which means uncuttable. And the reason we say that is because if we took something and we cut it, and we kept cutting and kept cutting and kept cutting until it got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, when we couldn't cut it anymore, when there was too small to cut, then we say it's an atom. So atoms are so small that you cannot see them, and our bodies and everything in the world that is matter is made up of atoms. Now, atoms are made up of three parts, okay? They're made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Now the protons are these blue ones here in the middle. The red ones are our neutrons, and the black ones out here are our electrons. Now, protons, these blue ones here, are positively charged. That's where we get the plus, because they are positively charged. The neutrons, which are the red ones in here, they're neutral. They don't have any charge at all. So our positive charges, protons, and our neutral charges, neutrons, they go into a big pile here in the center, and we call that the nucleus, the center of the atom. Then we have these little electrons. These are our negatively charged particles, and they are in a cloud kind of around the nucleus, the protons and neutrons, and they are negatively charged. And these electrons can hop around from one atom to another, which we saw when we rubbed the balloon against the sweater. The negative charges hopped onto the balloon, made the balloon negatively charged. And then since we took all the negative electrons from the sweater became positively charged. And positive and negative attract. So these little electrons are where we get our electricity from. When they hop around, they create that electricity. Now, electrons travel on a path, so they can hop around, and they travel on this like highway. And the highway they travel on is wires. And wires are made of metal. Now, most of the wires that you see are wrapped in a plastic or a rubber on the outside, but inside is always metal because electrons will travel really well through metal. So those wires are kind of like electron highways where the electrons zip around and travel. So the electrons have the negative charge, protons have our positive charge, and neutrons are neutral. They have no charge at all. The protons and neutrons do not jump around, but the electrons that are kind of floating around in that cloud out there, they do. Okay? So what happens is when I rub the balloon against the wall, it's taking on its negative particles because they're jumping from the wall onto the balloon. Now, the balloon becomes negatively charged, the wall becomes positively charged, and so it will attract. Now, I could even show you that here, if my camera was working great. I could take this balloon, I could rub it against my wool sweater or against my piece of wool, and I can stick it to the wall, and it'll stick there. It'll just stick right to the wall by that static electricity. Okay, so it's kind of like another little magic trick where I can make things stick to the wall. Now, I also have had people rub the balloon against their hair, and that works too, and it'll make your hair stand straight up. That's static electricity as well. Okay, because it's those electrons hopping around. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to make some paper circuits. We're going to make the pathway for those electrons to travel to get electricity from our battery to LEDs or some lights. Okay, now I've changed the materials a little bit on this project because my LEDs work better with a different battery. So what we're going to do is we're going to build some paper circuits. So we're going to light up some paper. Now, there's a couple symbols that you need to understand. This one right here is what we call the LED symbol. That means this is where the light is attached. Okay, the LED light, which means light emitting diode. It's our light. Okay, now over here, this is our positive side. It's got the long, and this would be this is our negative side. This is our positive. So over here, I've got positive and negative, and this is going to be really important for us to know. Over here is the positive, over here is negative. The short is negative, and I remember that because if I add two numbers together, and this looks like an add sign, my number gets bigger, so that's going to be on the long end. So if something is bigger, it's longer, and so that is our plus. When I subtract, which is what the negative looks like, the subtraction sign, my number gets smaller. And so the smaller end here is negative. So I remember plus makes numbers bigger. When I add them, they get bigger. That's the bigger side. When I subtract, my number gets smaller, and that negative is my smaller side. And that's important for us to remember. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to actually build our circuits, our paper circuits, and in your packet, I have given you a couple of cards. So I'm going to pull those out, show you what they look like. Okay, pull these down here. Okay, so I've given you two robots, and one of them is the blue smiley and the other is the orange. He looks like he's a little angry. I'm going to tell you that we would like to start with this one first. It's the easiest. And then this one is second if you want to work on that one. Okay, on the back of the cards, you will see that I have the circuit diagram already done up for us. Notice that this one is much easier than this one. So we're going to start with this one. Once you understand this one, then we can move over here to this one. Okay? Now, these lines, the straight solid lines here, are where the copper tape or the electrons are going to flow. That's where the path is. That's the highway. This is my battery symbol. And remember, this side is going to be my positive and this side is going to be my negative. Then this is going to be more of the highway. This is my LED symbol. And this is my LED symbol. So I see where my LEDs are going to go and where my battery is going to go. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut out my angry robot out of my card. Okay? I'm going to put happy robot to the side and we can work on him later. Okay? But we're going to start with the easiest one first. Okay, so I'm going to cut him out. All right. And I'm going to make that box a little bit better. Okay. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to create that circuit on the back of our card so we can get the electricity to travel from the battery on the highway up to the lights so we can get those electrons to travel and make the light bulbs light up. Now, you'll notice there are holes right here. Those are the same holes that are for its eyeballs. Okay, so I'm going to want to poke holes in there for the eyes or the LEDs to come through. So I'm going to just use a pencil and I'm going to poke those holes. Okay, poke that hole there so that I could get my LED to go through there. And I'm going to do it on the other side as well. Get those holes poked in there. Okay, so I just kind of poke those holes. Now, I'm going to make them a smidgen bigger because my LEDs are not small. So I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. So you can see that the holes are on the back as well. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a couple lines down from my battery because I want my I want to have some lines there. So I'm going to draw a line down and down because I also want to have copper tape here as well. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a card that stands up and you can see that's lights come on. Okay. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create this highway. Okay. Now, we told you that it works better with electricity. Okay. Or with what? Electrical wire is metal. So we're going to be using a metal to make the path. Now, you can use aluminum foil if you want, but in your packet, I've given you some copper tape. Okay. Now, I use this because it works very well, but I will tell you there's a couple tricks to it. One, I do not cut my copper tape when I come to the corners. I just kind of bend them or fold them so that it makes a nice corner. If you cut it and then try to put the copper tape back on top, sometimes it causes you to have a short in your circuit, and I don't want that. I want a continuous path. Okay, so what I'm going to do is the only time I really am going to cut is when I get to here, here, or to the battery. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a path. I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to come over here, go up here, and attach to there. Okay. Now I'm going to cut off, you know, a good portion of my copper tape so that I don't want all of this. It makes it too hard to So I'm going to take a piece, and I'm going to tell you a couple of things you don't want to do. You don't want to just peel the whole copper off because it'll curl, and then you've ruined it. Okay, so I only peel back a little bit up here at the top so that I have a beginning, but I'm not going to pull the whole thing off. I just have a little bit of my copper tape away from the backing. Okay, now I'm going to try to show you this the best I can here. Now I'm actually going to start up here at my, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm going to try to make it better. Okay, up here at my LED, and I'm going to put my copper tape down right there. Okay, now when I get to the corner here, remember how I said I don't want to cut it? I'm just going to do a little bend. Now it's not going to be pretty, and if you're one of those people who that really bothers, then you'll find that you don't love that. But if you cut it, it makes it a lot harder to get that connection. Okay, so I'm going to just it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to lay it down here and try to get my taped side down. Oh, now I've got a problem because it broke. So I'm going to peel that off, and I'm going to start it again. Okay, so I'm going to start it again, try to do a little better job this time. There we go. Now try to make this bend a little bit better here. There, if it folds over top of itself, it's okay. Now I'm going to come down here. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to kind of make that bend again. Okay, I'm going to come to the battery part, and then I'm also going to come down to give myself that little bit of extra. All right, so there, I'll hold that up. It's not perfect, as you're going to see. I just have my beginning part right here. Okay. You can see mine's not perfect, and that's okay, but keep it one piece if you can. That's going to make things a lot easier in the end. Okay. Now I've got to do the other side as well. So I'm going to take another piece, and I'm going to cut it. Okay. And again, I'm going to just peel back a little bit. I'm not peeling it all back. I'm just peeling a little bit so that I can work with it. Okay. And then, let's see if I can bring this out here. I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. And again, like I said, don't cut at the corners. Just kind of do a little bend. And you can always just push it down to make it, but I don't want to break it. And I will tell you that it does tear pretty easy, as you saw from the other side when I had to do that one. Okay. Now, get my highway a little better there. I can pull it up a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to come down here, bend it, bring it over. There. And then I'm going to come down. Oh, I could go over there. And then I'm going to kind of come back and go down here to this corner as well. Okay, now when I get down there, I am going to cut it because I don't want it off the card. All right, so now both of my sides are done. Now the only thing I have left is that middle. Okay, so I've got enough copper on here that I'm going to just use that and put it down in the middle. And then I'll pull it up and show you. Now this piece is the only piece that I do. It's easier to do because it's the straight piece. There. Okay, so now I've got my copper wire all run. So now what I want to do is I want to put my LEDs in. Okay, now I'm going to put my copper wire over here to the side, grab my box of LEDs. Now I put LEDs in your bag. So now I buy them like this from Amazon, where I have lots of different colors. So I'm just going to pull out 2 of my LEDs. So I'm going to start with one. I'm going to look at it. Look, he's red. I'm going to give him blue eyes. Why not, right? Okay, now let's take a look at our LED first. Now, there's a couple of things you need to know about your LED. Notice that the wires here, one of them is longer than the other. This is short. Okay, this is called the positive wire is the longer one. Remember, when you add things, they get bigger. And the shorter wire is my negative wire. Remember, when you subtract two numbers, they get smaller. So you need to know that this wire over here, which is longer, is your positive, and this wire over here, which is your negative, is shorter. Now, I always test my lights out first to make sure they work. So we're going to use these button batteries right here. Whoa. And you're going to notice they have two sides, right? This side here has kind of a texture to it, all right? And it's smaller. That's going to be our negative side. The other side, which is shiny and bigger, that's our positive side. Remember, positive is bigger, negative is shorter. So I want to put positive to positive and negative to negative. So what I'm going to do is put my long wire on the positive side. I've got to bend them a little bit. And my short wire on my negative side. And then you will see that my light will light up. Now, if I switch it and do it the other way, does it light up? No, because I have to do the long wire to the positive side and the short wire to the negative side. So I tested it out, and I know this LED works. Okay, so I'm going to put it to the side. Now I'm going to pull out another one. Maybe I would give him two different color eyes. Okay, I'm going to pull out a red one this time. Remember, positive to positive, negative to negative, and here we go, it lit up. If I flip it to the other way, will it work? No, it won't. Okay, so remember, long wire goes to the positive side, which is bigger. Short wire goes to the negative side, which is smaller. Okay, and you test it out to make sure that they work. Okay, now I know that both of my LEDs are working, but each of these LEDs takes about 3 volts to get them to run. And each of these batteries is 3 volts. So if I attach one battery, and then I try to attach another light to this battery, only one of them is going to light up because this battery only has enough energy for one light bulb. It doesn't have enough for 2. So if I want to have 2 light bulbs going, what is that going to mean about my batteries? That's right, I'm going to have 2 batteries to make them both light up. So in your packet, I've given you 2 batteries. So I can even test both of mine. If I have 2 batteries, they both light up. If I only have 1, then they don't. Okay? So I'm going to put my batteries to the side. Now, another thing you need to know is when you put these in, they need to be in the correct way. Now we know this side over here is our positive side. So if you want to, I'm going to put a big plus over here. Oh, and I'm going to put a minus over here. So this is my positive side. This is my negative side. I know that because, see, this is the longer, it's positive. This is the shorter, it's negative. Now, our batteries, or our light bulbs, need to be put on so that the positive side is always facing here. So if I follow the positive, my positive wire needs to be here. Okay, and then it needs to be here. My negative wire is going to be here and here. Okay, now that's important because if you get them backwards, it won't light up. Okay, now the other thing you need to know is we're going to have to bend these wires. Okay, so I have to know which side is positive. So I'm always saying, okay, positive's here. That's my longer one. I'm going to bend it down first. Then I'm going to hold on to my positive wire so I know that's the positive. And then I'm going to bend my negative. So I know my positive is on this finger because when I bend it, I won't be able to see which one's longer. Okay, now over here, I've got to make sure that my positive wire is on this side. Okay, on the base of the triangle. So since I'm holding the positive side, it's easy for me to just slide it in there with the positive side facing the correct direction. So I'm going to pop my light in there, and I'm going to tell you it's not necessarily easy, but yeah, I've got it popped in, and I have my positive wire touching the copper here and my negative wire touching the copper here, because if we follow it, positive to negative, and then it's going to go positive to negative. Okay, and it's going to go around in the circle. That's why we call it a circuit. Okay, now I want to make sure that this stays in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of copper tape, a little more of that copper tape, and I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to use it like tape, but I'm using the copper side. I'm going to use the copper tape because, oh, well, that didn't have any on it. Oh, here we go. I'm going to cut a little piece of this to use it as tape here. Okay, then I'm going to peel it back, and since it's small, I can take the whole piece off. And I'm going to tape right over top of that wire so that it's touching the copper wire, and all I'm doing is taping it down there so it's going to stay nice. And I'm pushing in pretty hard to make that connection good. So all I did was tape over top of it, and I want to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to cut another little piece. I'm going to peel it back. Like I said, since this is small, I can just pull it, and I'm going to tape down my other side here, just over top of the wire onto the copper. So now all I did is tape those wires right in place. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing over here, but I've got to remember, follow the positive. Here's the positive side, so this has to be the positive side. Okay, so again, I'm going to take my other LED. I know that this is my positive side, so I'm going to bend that one down, and that's the one I'm going to hold on to. Then I'm going to bend my negative one. Now I keep my hand on the positive side, and I know my positive side has to be here. Okay, so when I pop that in there, I want to make sure that my positive side stays to the left. Like I said, it's not easy to pop it in there, so I'm going to have to use a little force. And you could take your pencil and make your hole a little bigger, and that might make it easier to pop your light in there, but you have to kind of push hard because this is cardstock. There we go. So now I've got my wires bent, my positive to my positive, got my light bulb through, and there it is. Okay, now notice my wire is right on top of the copper, positive side here, or here, negative side here. Okay, oh, wrong one, sorry, I got it over here. Okay, so I got to bend those wires so they're right. Okay, so my positive side is here, my negative side is here. My negative always comes out the front of the triangle. Now I'm going to tape that in place. So I'm going to use a little more tape, copper tape. I'm going to peel it back, take my little piece, and I'm going to tape it right over top of those wires, and I want to make sure they're touching the copper, okay, because that's the highway. I don't want to have any gaps in my highway. So I just taped it right over top. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, making sure the wire's on that copper, because I've got to have that copper matched up, because if I don't, it's going to be a big gap in the highway. And if I have a gap in the highway, it will not travel, okay, because electrons have to have that nice path. So here I've got my other little piece of tape, and now I'm going to tape over the other side and get it on there nice and good. Okay, so now I have my LEDs on there. So the only thing I have left to do is get my battery. All right, now in order for the electrons to move through, I need to make sure that they have that strong path. But see, there's a gap right here, so I'm going to be closing that gap here in a little bit. But I want to put my battery on. Okay, now I'm going to put my battery down here. Even though the symbol's there, I'm going to put it down here because I'm going to use this part. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my two batteries together. Now I have to make sure that I'm going to put the positive side, that's the smooth big side, down, then I have negative up, and then I'm going to take the positive side, and so it's going to go positive, negative, positive, negative. And here I've got my nice little stack. Okay. Then I'm going to tape it down over here to the positive side because I got positive side down and positive match. Notice how I'm just kind of piling them over on that side right on top of that copper. Okay. Now, the electrons are not going to jump from here to here. I have to give them a path. So what I'm using as my path has to be something that is metal. Okay. So I put in your bag, and I'm trying to get one here that's not connected to everything else. I'm going to use, well, let me just pull one, a metal paper clip. Okay. So I'm going to take my metal paper clip after I undo the mess I've got going here. Okay. And I'm even going to bend mine out a little bit so that I have a nice, now you have to make sure that's metal and not coated in plastic. And this one is coated in plastic, so I'm going to get rid of it and I'm going to pick another one because plastic won't let electricity flow through. Now this one I know is completely metal. Okay, you don't want any that are coated in plastic. Okay, so if you have any at your house that look like this, they won't work because they're coated in plastic. You need to get the ones that aren't, that are just plain metal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape it down with my paper clip on there. So I'm going to put my paper clip on there, on my two batteries, and then I'm going to tape the whole thing down. So I'm going to use regular tape, not copper tape this time. So I'm going to use regular tape, and I'm going to tape that down. Tape my batteries down and my, see, I've got my stack of batteries with my paper clip on top. Now I'm going to be extra good, and I am going to really tape that on there, but good. Okay. But I don't want to put the tape over on this side. I just want it to cover in here. So I've got it taped down. And now, if I push down, I could get a connection over to this side to make my lights come on. See? But you notice I have to push down pretty good. So I thought what I would do is add something there to make that connection a little better. So in your bag, I put in a brass fastener, or some people call it brass. It looks like this, and it's copper. So I'm going to attach it on my other side to kind of push up that. So I'm going to take my pencil again, and I'm going to poke a hole right through the copper, right underneath there. And I'm going to insert this brad, and I'm going to open it up on this side. Whoop, I got my lights coming on already. Now, when I touch this down, my paper clip to the metal, what's going on here? My lights will come on. So all I have to do is push down here, get my paper clip attached, and now my lights will come on. When I let go, they go off, on, off, on, off. But it's really important for you to have nice connection. So tape things down good. Notice these two are slipping out. So I think I'm going to put more tape over here to get that so those don't slide apart. Okay. Then that makes it easier for me. All I have to do is press and on they come. Okay. Now I want this to stand up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut little here. Over here, if you look real lightly, I've got some little squares. I'm going to cut here. I'm going to cut here. Then I'm going to fold right there where his legs are. Okay. I see that he is very active. He wants his lights to come on. So I can make a little stand. Now I can fold these and fold these in too, to kind of make it like it's like a little box. Okay, and I can fold this up and fold it in. And if I want to, I can even add tape right here on the inside. I think I'll do that to make him stand up nice. I'll put the tape on the outside though, because I don't want to cover up any of my my copper tape in here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and tape on this side as well. Now he stands up, and when I push down on my paper clip, I got my little button, he comes on. Now he'll even stand up. Oops, let me see if I can get him. Okay, so now when I push down, his lights come on. Now if you want to bend this one down too and make the little box on the top, you're welcome to do that. And there you have your paper circuit. Okay, now after you have this one made, it's the easier one. If you want to make this one, you can do the same thing. You're just going to have to follow the path. But remember, I would go ahead and take I would make those lines down from the battery. Oh, sorry guys. I would make my line down from the battery again, so that I make my wire down there. Okay. Then I already have this one made, so I can show you what I have made here. I have a lot of fun with these different circuits. Here's my other one. I don't have the batteries on him yet, but here he's made, and he's all wired up. Okay. Then after that, here's my other one. You can see he works really well, but I did fold down the top on him, so he stands up real nice. Then what I did is I took regular paper, and I did the same kind of thing, and I push here. Oh, I think Rudolph has run out of batteries. Let me see if I can get my Christmas tree to work. There we go. When you push in here, my lights on my Christmas tree will come up. And I put these binder clips just to make my Christmas tree card stand up. Okay, so you can play around with more cards. I also created a little, I built myself a little house. And then I have it wired. So if I flip my switch over here, I have it so that the light in the house will come on. So I've got two lights.
Ninja coming.
Okay. So you can build a house, and I built a lantern. Oh, it's in here. Same kind of thing. Made my little circuit, and this time when I push down on the brad onto my battery, you can't see it very well, but my light comes on the inside. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. If you don't have copper tape, you can use aluminum foil. Just be careful with the tape. Your button battery, I use brads and paper clips because they are metal, and I can create all kinds of little projects using the paper circuits. So I'm a little disappointed that my battery ran out on Rudolph, but he's been on quite a bit. So I'll just replace the battery and he'll be good as new. All right, so that's what we're doing today. And then you can play around with that. The other thing I wanted you to see is if you get on to PhET simulations, and I have all of these steps on here, which for you to see how mine works. I did mine a little different with a 9-volt battery. Let me take you back here. And the wire. You have to be a little careful because 9 volts can blow the battery, can blow your lights out. So be very careful with that. You have to have special LEDs to use a 9-volt battery. Okay. And then I did it again. And then here you can see I've linked up. And if you want this whole presentation, all you need to do is ask me and I'll send it to you. You can get on PhET simulations and you can build right on here. So I'm going to pull out my light bulb and I'm going to pull out a battery and I'm going to use some wires. So I'm going to connect my wire here and my wire here. Now the thing you need to understand about the battery or the light bulb is that you have to connect one of the wires to the side and one of them to the bottom. And if you do that, you will see your light comes on. Okay. Now, I can even redo this and make a switch. This time I'm going to put on 2 bulbs. I'm going to use a switch, and I'm going to get out my battery. Those are the things I need. Now, whenever I make my circuit, I need to make a circle. So I'm going to bring it here, connect it. Then I'm going to connect it to the bottom of my light. Then I'm going to connect it to my side, side to bottom, and then side. And I'm going to move this one in a little bit here, and I'm going to connect it here. And now I've got a gap there, so I want to make sure I fill in this gap here and here. Now you can see my lights are on, not real bright, but if I use the switch, now I can turn them on and off. Now, if I want my light to be brighter, I'm going to throw away that switch. I can add another battery. I'm going to add 3. Let's see how bright I can get it. And now connect it. Now look how bright they are. Now turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. Now I can build with, so I'm going to redo the whole thing, and I'm going to use several bulbs. Now remember, the more bulbs I use, the more batteries, right, I have to use, okay? So I'm going to pull out several batteries. You can use the switch or you can not use the switch. That is up to you. And so I'm going to build, now I'm going to put some wires here. Now when I do bottom, I always go from side of one to the bottom of the other. Side of one to the bottom of the other. They have to have 2 distinct places. They can't be connected to the same. And I'm going to show you why here in just a minute. Okay, and then I can bring it around, and there you go. All right, now let me show you what happens if I don't connect it right. Okay, one, either the light bulb won't come on, or I can create a fire. So this time I'm going to connect here, right to the bottom, and then I'm going to do at the bottom again to this battery. Look what happens. It's traveling so fast it'll make a little fire. That's not what we want. And that's why it's dangerous to play with batteries at home, because they can overheat and cause a fire. Okay, so if I get that, I'm just going to redo, bring out my light bulb, my battery, my wire, and this time, and notice if I do it from here back to here, is it going to light? No, it won't even let me do that. So I'm going to get rid of this particular wire, come here, but watch if I do it from here to here, will it light? No. Okay, because I'm not connecting all the way around. I'm not making my circle, so I'm going to get rid of that wire, bring out my other wire. If I bring it back around, you can see that it lights properly. So you're welcome to get onto this and play around. It's called the Circuit Construction Kit DC, and it's on PHET. Look over here, PHET, and these are all free. You can go onto PHET, PHET.com, I think, and then you can type in Circuit Construction Kit, and you can play around building circuits right here. Okay, so that is there, and like I said, and if you want to build some more paper circuits, you can always use aluminum foil. You can make some holiday cards that light up, and you can have some fun building with some paper circuits. All right, well, I had fun today. I hope you learned something. If you don't have the packet to for the materials, please stop by the board office or ask a parent to stop by the board office and pick it up for you. This video is recorded so you can watch as many times as you need, and I hope you had fun today. All right, see you later. Enjoy making some circuits.